All right, cool. I'm going to pause the chat here. Let's start with this. Hey guys, Tantix here. I recently got a chance to play Cyberpunk for about a week, and during that time, I have finished the game twice. Now, it's a huge game, and my impressions are up on my channel. You can check out my review on /Dantix. There is a lot to cover, so I thought I'd jump on this stream and just answer all of your questions. I can see them going like absolute crazy, and I'm going to start now. Let's start with Ghost Petey. Is it good? Is it worth the hype? How big is the map compared to other games? Is it good? Yes, it is a very good game. Now, I've seen some mixed reviews around. A lot of that is due to the fact that, unfortunately, a lot of reviewers only got the chance to play the game from Saturday. So, realistically speaking, if you take sleep into account, they maybe got about 30 hours with the game. And that is not enough time. It is really not enough time. I can't stress that this game demands that you take your time with it. It wants you to explore. It wants you to check out all the side quests, all the mainline missions can wait. You know, you've got to do all this other stuff in the meantime. How big is the map? The map is fairly big. Now, it's not as big as you'd expect out of like a Witcher game, but it's very compact. It's probably about the same size as, I would say, maybe San Andreas, GTA San Andreas. It's got a lot of content within that map, though. If you're talking about the central area of Night City, there's multi-layers. You'll see that as you go down elevators, you'll see, one layer with, a highway, the next layer with, your standard pathways and shops and stuff. And then you see like alleys and stuff below that. There's different areas within the same city in the same region. So sometimes you can get lost if you're looking for something in particular, like a hidden tarot card. But overall, it's a really big area, and even though I spent so much time in the game, I am still seeing new things. Each alley is distinctly different. Like everything is lovingly crafted to the point where they put individual bins and bits of paper and everything uniquely. It's not dynamically generated. It's all uniquely placed there. So it's a huge area. All right, what else have we got? You finished with the game before it's even out? Yes. So for those who don't know, people that have some form of influence usually get these kind of games early. In my, for me, precisely, I got it about a week early. I'm not sure about others. It gave me a lot of time to play the game, to generate my own opinions and my own thoughts. Unfortunately, we didn't have a day one patch when we were playing. We did get patched midway through, about 3 or 4 days into playing, I got a patch. It did fix a lot of the issues I was having, but there still are issues. There's a lot of bugs. There's a lot of texture problems. There's some sound bugs. There's some bugs in some missions, but nothing was game breaking. Nothing drew me out of immersion to a point where I just was frustrated. I was reading the GameSpot review, and the GameSpot review was going on and on about how it was immersion breaking and how it didn't explain itself very well, and I completely disagree with that. I'm completely on the other end of that spectrum. I like RPGs, and I'm used to games that come out from Bethesda, just full of bugs, and this isn't at that level. This doesn't have as many bugs as Skyrim had at release, if that gives you some impression. All right, curious about enemies trying to hack you. How bad is that? On normal, not too bad. Enemies can hack you, and they can kind of put in... Think of it as like a spell. They cast a spell on you and you get, a dot placed on you, or your vision's impaired, or something happens, like you can't fire for a short time. Generally speaking, it's not too bad on normal. Now, on hard, and when I tried very hard, it's very game. Like it kills you. If you get a dot on that just does fire damage to you, which is fairly common, it will kill you. It will straight up kill you. I'm pretty sure I expect into mostly body on the very hard playthrough, and that's a lot of health, and that was still not enough. When someone starts hacking you on very hard, you're gonna have to find the source very quickly, or you're gonna have to hide. And you have to hide from cameras as well as enemies, because if the netrunner can see you through a camera, they're gonna put the dot on you. On normal though, it's not too bad. You can kind of heal through it. So it kind of stacks accumulatively based on how many enemies are firing at you at the current time. So if you have a lot of enemies on the screen firing at you and you're not in cover, and then you get hacked, that's bad news. You're gonna die. But other than that, generally speaking, if you're pretty careful, you'll be fine. All right, what are Judy's preferences? I'm gonna cover this in a wide sweep right now in terms of romances. Honestly, if you're a straight male, you do not have that many options. I hate to say it. I'm not sure how many options anyone else on the spectrum will get, but Judy is into women, unfortunately. So if you want to romance Judy, I recommend starting your V off with a female body. And if you absolutely have to have the male voice actor, just flip the male voice on. All intents and purposes, you'll just be a male with tiny boobies. And then you can romance Judy. But overall, there isn't that many options romance-wise. You can sleep around, sort of. But yes, there isn't that many. How many hairstyles? Enough. Enough. Can you get the motorcycle early on? Yes, you can. In fact, it is one of the first vehicles you get. The first vehicle you get, without spoiling it, is pretty crappy. The motorcycle is next. You get it very early on during the mainline story. One of the first vehicles you get when you get thrown into the open world after the prologue. Oh my God, the chat is going nuts. How is stealth, hacking, and shooting? All right, David Simmons, stealth, not so good. Stealth is kind of like, if you guys remember Deus Ex, it's kind of like that. The enemies aren't too smart. They have a vision cone. Generally, if you stay out of the vision cone, you'll be fine. Though, I found myself, even though I didn't invest into hacking, I only put 3 into intelligence, so that is the bare minimum. I found myself using it quite often. I used it to turn off turrets. I used it to turn off cameras. And when you do so, it's a lot easier to sneak around because cameras will spot you. Enemies will spot you. So the ability to kind of reduce the vision cones around when you are stealthing is very, very valuable. So when you do put a lot of points into intelligence and you get access to those high level demons, you'll find that your stealthy netrunner playstyle is really viable. It's an extremely viable playstyle, and I suppose because it is Cyberpunk, you expect that to be the case. But even if you look at some of the reviewers that played through as a netrunner, they had a vastly different opinion of the game than people who play through combat-wise. They're completely different. If you try to go in guns blazing and you've invested heavily in intelligence and not put anything into a combat skill, you're not going to have a good time. The same regards if you try to hack someone without upgrading your RAM and upgrading all of your cyber deck and all of the daemons that you have, you're just not going to do much to them. You might be able to ping them, which reveals locations of other enemies, but you're not going to be able to do much more. So realistically, the playstyles are exact opposites. Shooting, I enjoyed. I found it like Call of Duty. Honestly, I invested heavily into pistols as my first playthrough. And once I started getting all the perks, I was just like, it just felt like a normal shooting game to me. It was really good, very satisfying. When you kill people, bits of their head blows off, their limbs blow off. Nothing felt bullet spongy with the investment. Nothing felt like it was out of place. There's a lot of numbers behind the scenes ticking away. You'll see crits, you'll see damage effects, electric damage, fire damage, all of these different effects based on what weapon you have and how you've modded it. But that all happens naturally, and it doesn't distract from what's happening on screen. It's kind of like Borderlands 3 in a way, where it is an RPG. It is a looter shooter in that way, but it's very very fluid. All right, let's scroll up a little bit here. Bigger question: how much did the initial life path choice impact things with the main story? This is a very difficult one to quantify, because without playing it multiple times on each of the life paths, which I haven't done yet, I played Corpo, and I played a bit of Nomad. So I haven't been able to compare. But from what I can see, it affects the way, at the very least, certain side missions play out, and at the very least, how certain characters view you. I know that I had a particular mission with Corpo that I wouldn't have gotten on Street Kid and Nomad just because of who I met early on in the corporate life path. In terms of how it influences the ending, I don't think it does. As far as I know, there are a lot of endings, there's multiple endings, but it influences the journey more than the outcome, if that makes sense. Are there arm leg augments other than the mantis blades, gorilla arms, and the cannon? So, in terms of arm augments, there's the four: the mantis blades, gorilla arms, the projectile launcher, and the monowire. And all of those have different rarities, and all of those have different modifications. But there are tons of cyberware options. There's options, I can't even remember all of them, honestly. Options that have restrictions based on your attributes. For example, body gets this really powerful one that lets you just instantly heal. The one that I really enjoyed was a reflex one called the Sandarian or something like that. I can't remember the exact name. But you press a button and you slow down time for 30 seconds. It's not the Kresnikov. The Kresnikov is another cyber augment that when you dodge, it slows down time. So there's a lot of different augments, but in terms of the arm slot, there's those four. And those four add something actively to combat. The arm cannon, obviously, you can shoot rockets. You can modify those with like corrosive damage, for example. Your mantis blades, you can modify in different ways. Your gorilla arms, you can do different things with. And I found the monowire was more of a stealth option because it does a huge amount of damage. But then after time goes on, after you keep using it, the damage goes down. So it's like you leave it, you let it charge for a bit, you sneak around in stealth, you whip someone with it, you take off their head, their limbs, everything. It just decapitates anything, basically. And then you use it again, it won't be as damaging. All right. The driving experience. All right, driving is interesting. Driving starts off pretty meh, it's okay. It's all right because you start off with pretty shitty cars. The car you start with just doesn't have a good turning circle. It just doesn't feel very good. But then you get the bike, and the bike feels great. The bike, if you jump into third person, is what I used majority of the game just because you can weave in and out of traffic. But then you get access to better cars. You get access to the car that you saw in all of the gameplay trailers. You get access to some of the supercars very, very late game. And if you have saved money, which I definitely didn't do the first time around, you can buy one. And they handle like a dream. They feel really good. They go very fast. It's very arcadey. Driving is a very arcadey feel. It's more like GTA than it is Gran Turismo, like I mentioned in the review. But overall, I enjoyed it. It was something that was there. It wasn't a standout aspect of the game, but definitely the detail that they put into the car's interiors and exteriors really paid off. The cars don't get damaged as much as they do in GTA, or as quickly as they do in GTA. You have to take quite a bit of punishment before things explode, things get, destroyed. But you will see visual damage on the outside of your car. You see scratches, you see bumpers ripped up, you see bonnets torn off. But once again, you're a lot more tankier in your car. However, that even applies to the Porsche 911. I thought they wouldn't let you damage the Porsche, but you can. All right. Does the gameplay get less clunky after a while? It most certainly does. It doesn't really... I didn't really feel any clunkiness, honestly, when I started. I guess it looks clunkier than it plays, if that makes sense. If you put effort into improving your stats, improving your skills, you're not going to feel clunky. You're going to start off shooting fairly slowly, having a high recoil. There was one particular Borg pistol that I got fairly early on that required 5 body to equip. And when I shot that, not exaggerating, this would be my arm. It would actually go off screen. The recoil was so extreme. But once I got that 5 body and once my pistol skill started getting raised, the recoil would be like this. So the way animations play out, how accurate weapons are, how much damage you do, all that stuff changes over time because it is an RPG. So in terms of clunkiness, yeah, I guess if you find it clunky at the start, it's definitely going to improve the more you invest into it. All right. Let's go a little bit further down. I can't keep up with all of these comments. How many penises can you have? One. All right. Can male V smash duty? I already went through that. No, unfortunately, you'll need a female body. How much male nudity compared to female nudity? This is an interesting one. You don't see any nude penises besides your own if you've chosen to have nudity on. If you take off all your clothes and you look down, you see your flopping penis. If you jump into the menu with no clothes on, you'll see your penis flopping around. In terms of other dicks, you don't see them. During the sex scenes, you don't see any dicks. You don't see anything male-wise except their bodies. Now, with females, it's different. You see boobs. In one scene in particular, you see pretty much, I would consider pretty much all of a vagina. So there is one scene at least, minimum, that I've seen with it. But in terms of actual scenes, I think males probably get the least amount of options. I'm not sure why that is, but it is. That's where it is. How many NPCs can you interact with? Now, this is something I was actually disappointed in. You can talk to NPCs just by pressing a button and they'll comment, but you can't have a conversation with them, with most of them anyway, on the street. So if you're walking down the street, you bump into someone, they'll react. If you're walking down the street, you press a button on someone, they'll react. But if they aren't a particular named NPC, you're not going to be able to have a conversation with them at all. Some NPCs, usually the named ones, will bring up a range of dialogue options for you to engage with them. For example, it might be a prostitute on Jig Jig Street and you can ask her questions and engage her services. If it's someone important, you'll have a conversation. But during that time, you're not locked into the conversation at all. I found a lot of times I quite literally had to walk away from someone to end the conversation because it's kind of dynamic that way. You don't get locked in. You can keep walking around. You can keep looking around, looting, that kind of stuff while talking to someone, which is pretty good. I enjoyed that aspect, but definitely don't feel like you can talk to as many people as I would have liked, at least while you're roaming around the world. All right. Can you toggle walk on a keyboard or just sprint? The natural setting is to walk. You can sprint by holding shift on the PC, and if you do so, it consumes stamina. If you consume that enough, you'll raise your athletic skill and you'll get more stamina by investing into blah, 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 by perks and different items. But you can't naturally have sprint always on, I don't think, because that would just drain all your stamina. How many bugs do you think will be an issue at launch? It's hard to say because the bugs I had before the patch weren't too bad. They were very frequent in that there was quite a few times where someone would T-pose. There were quite a few times where a texture wouldn't load in, like my hair, for example. There was a few times where people would talk over another. There were a few times where a particular option of a quest wouldn't go away, but none of that stopped me from playing the game and broke my experience at all. There was few immersion breaking moments, but nothing that overall soured the experience to the extent that I would take off that many points for it. And if you consider that a lot of these issues probably will be rectified, I'm not sure if they're going to be rectified straight away, but most of them should be. They don't seem like something that can't be fixed. Then this game is going to go up a few points for a lot of people. That the main gripe, and you'll see it with a lot of reviews, is that they had an issue with either the performance. I don't think a lot of them did with the performance, but either with the performance or the bugs. And I think a third thing there is as well that I didn't mention is a lot of reviewers didn't have a lot of time with the game. And that I think soured their experience. All right. How was the performance? I just kind of went through that. I was getting solid frames. Everything looked great my end besides the bugs. I was playing with a 3080, just a brand new graphics card. I've got a fairly high-end PC. I was playing on high settings with ray tracing and it looked gorgeous. It looked beautiful. It ran smoothly. I didn't run into any significant hiccups, nothing that I can note. I can't say that that's going to be the same for everyone. I can't say what it's going to be like on console. All right. Is the map really bigger than GTA 5? Oh, it's been a while since I played GTA 5. Yeah, the city is bigger. The city is bigger than GTA 5 city, for sure. Not the wilderness and so forth, because it's mostly city. Cyberpunk is mostly Night City. There is portions where you go out into the Badlands and you can go out to other areas, but the city itself is definitely more compact, probably bigger scale wise as well, and there's just more to do, honestly. I've been watching all your videos on Cyberpunk. It really helped me hyped up for it. My plan is melee focused, so question is, how does melee feel comparatively to shooting? Melee is interesting because melee is more or less button mashing, right? Like you're more or less spamming, your light attacks and your heavy attacks, but then you do have stamina, and stamina runs out fairly quickly without investment. So if you just spam, like I mentioned, you'll run out and you have to wait. It's better in melee when you're versus someone else in melee is to just counterattack. And I got this perk that let me counterattack for 400% damage. And that was down the Blades tree. And that was insane. Once I got that, anyone else in melee was just soup. I would just wait for them to attack, I'd counter it, and I'd just decapitate them instantly. It was phenomenal. So you can get things like that make your experience better. And then you get the Mantis Blades, for example, where you can kind of leap to your target and attack them. That feels really good. Katanas feel amazing. The weight of hammers feel really good. Getting Sasquatch's hammer, I started using that a little bit. And yeah, it's not as, you don't feel, it's a different experience. I guess that's one way to put it. Shooting has its own take, it has its own RPG flavor. And melee has its own thing. If you get used to melee in Skyrim, this is a lot better than that. There's a lot more to it than that. And the sound effects and the animations make it not boring. After a while, melee sort of gets boring, but it's not boring because of that. Hitting an enemy is satisfying, especially in melee because it does so much damage. All right. Lots of questions about Judy. I'll leave you guys to answer that in the chat. Is there a bounty system and how does it work? Can you take NPCs into the police? Gaming conveyor. All right, this is a multi-pronged question. I think it requires a multi-pronged answer. The bounty system is pretty crap, honestly, in Cyberpunk 2077. It is there just to dissuade you from going on a killing spree. If you kill some NPCs, you run them over, you get a 1-star rating, and then basically police in the area will start attacking you. If you drive away, if you walk away and you hide, it disappears very quickly. If you get to that 3-4-star rating, you'll get the max tack on you, and they pretty much spawn on you. I don't think they don't appear with any cars or anything. They just kind of start appearing there, and they're relentless. They'll kind of phase warp into you. They'll like just kind of, with their cyberware, they'll just kind of like run at you and dodge like really eloquently and just almost one-shot you most of the time until you get really powerful. So it's just there to dissuade you from going too much on a killing spree. It's not like GTA wherein you're going to have to spray your car to get away and you're going to have some epic police chase. No, they won't really chase you in the car. They're easy to kind of lose. So until you get to those high wanted level ratings, it's not really a thing. In Night City, no one really cares if you kill people. They really don't. The police care to an extent, but like it's a lawless city and you got to kind of treat it as such. Can you take NPCs to the police? No, but you get missions from the police wherein you can stop people robbing stores, you can help take down criminals, you can apprehend cyber psychos, but all of the handing in is done, via the phone or via a Dropbox. You don't have to go to a police station. Is pure fist or pure melee viable? Yes. Yeah, especially once you get the gorilla arms, it is especially viable. Hey, Deadly Veins. It's good to see you here. What's the difference between the blade skill and the melee skill? All right, this is an interesting one. And I'm going to post a video on attribute skills and perks very soon once I get approval to post my own video content. Right now, we don't have that option. But you get melee damage from investing into body. That's where you get the damage from. However, you get attack speed from investing into reflex. If you invest into brawler, the brawler skill, that is mostly focused around blunt weapons. And blunt weapons include crowbars, bats, hammers, and your fists. And of course, your gorilla arms. So those will improve. If you invest into blades, it'll improve anything that's bladed. Knives, katanas, kantos, that kind of thing. If you put tons of points into body and then start putting skill perks into blades, you'll be really good with blades. It'll improve the damage. You'll still hit hard. Likewise, if you put heaps of points into reflex and invest into brawler, you'll still do heaps of damage with melee because you'll have a faster attack speed. So they kind of work simultaneously. Put a lot of points into body and reflexes, you'll just be a killing machine in terms of melee damage. You just have to choose if you rather use blades or you rather use blunt weapons. Blunt weapons are non-lethal until you hit them again when they're passed out. So you hit them with a hammer, they'll be on the ground struggling in pain. If you hit them again, they'll die. But you can go full non-lethal if you want to. And blades are lethal, fully lethal, so you'll kill them if you hit them with blades. So that's the difference. All right. What else do we have? Is it true you can give your character both female and male genitalia? God, I don't think so. I don't think so. You can give him boobs and a dick, but I don't think you can give him both genitalia. Does it have a new game plus? No. Not yet. Can you reset skill points? And if yes, is it difficult, expensive to do? Jessica Voss, I'm going to talk about this in the video I'm going to post soon, but you can reset only perk points. You can't reset attributes. You can't reset your skill. So every point that you put into perks, you can reset. But here's the big but, guys. And I've got one of those as well. It costs 100,000 eddies to reset your perk points. To get 100,000 eddies is a task in itself. To give you an example, one of the high-end sports cars is just over 100,000 eddies. It is very expensive to reset your perk points to the point where I don't think you're going to want to, just because that money is best spent elsewhere. You're gonna need to buy high-end cyberware. You're gonna need to buy high-end mods, weapons. You're gonna want to buy vehicles. So money, eddies in particular, is very valuable, like extremely valuable, to the point where I don't think I've seen the requirement for cash to this extent in an RPG in a long time. It's much more valuable than it is in a game like Skyrim or Fallout, and definitely not a lot more valuable than it is in Borderlands. So yeah, you've got the option to reset, but it's going to cost you. Quite literally going to cost you. All right. How many cars can you store? As many as you can get. As many as you can buy. There are trucks, yeah. There are trucks. I'm not going to spoil anything, but there is a section of the game where you get to drive something else as well. And that was really cool. Is the driving more like GTA or more like Watch Dogs? Probably Watch Dogs Legion more than GTA, I'd say. All right, so we've got another question about money. What is the money aspect of the game? Is money easier to acquire? Can you spend money constantly and splurge? I just covered all of that. Money is rare. You'll run out of it. It's easy to come by doing side quests and missions and stuff, but there's a lot of things you need to spend it on. There's even a mission where you need to hire someone in particular, and that costs you money. All right. Did you experience any bugs? Yeah, I did. How expensive are hypercars? So I just covered that. Over 100,000 eddies. So you have to save quite a lot. All right. Do you have more relationship details? And sorry, I can't understand that question. Is your virginity forced away from you? No. You can avoid it. Is the bartender boy romanceable? I actually don't know. I didn't really try that. I'm very sorry, guys. I am a straight male, so I didn't really try the other options yet for romancing men or male-bodied characters. But you can romance them. I'm just not sure which. How can you buy weapons? You can buy them from shops, and that's it. You can buy them from shops. And vending machines. You can actually buy a budget arms pistol from a vending machine. I can't remember the name of it, but it has like 40 ammo. And it fires really fast, and once you run out, it breaks and you can't use it again. It's pretty cool, actually. It does almost no damage, but it's fun. Can you paint your nails? No, I don't think you can. Not after the start of the game. Jesus, I cannot keep up with this chat. Is the choice system as robust and deep as advertised? Are the side missions comparable to the main missions as far as writing, difficulty, and fun? Very good question, Serious Geek. The choice system is extreme. Almost everything feels like a choice. Almost everything, from what you look like to your life path to your attributes, skills, perks, to what weapons you have equipped, what items, what mods, what cyberware, what missions you take, in what order, what you choose to ignore, how you choose to respond, how you choose to undertake the missions, how you choose to do a lot of things. Is there's a lot of choices. And yes, they translate over to the side missions. There are your main missions, your main quests, your side quests, your gigs, and then you've got other random things. Your main missions are the most robust, okay? They have multiple ways of approaching every situation, multiple outcomes, and they ultimately affect the game in more substantial ways. Then you have the side quests, and these are well written. I enjoyed some of the side quests more than I did actually the main quests. You know, they're well written. They're Witcher 3 level and beyond. You know, the characters are dynamic, interesting, and I just wanted to engage with them more. They're multi-pronged side missions, side quests. I'll give you an example. You'll meet one particular character. You'll find out more about them. You'll go on a mission with them. You know, you'll make a choice, and then you'll have more with them based on that choice. And you'll develop a relationship of sorts. You know, I'm not talking about purely sexual relationship. I'm talking about just a relationship. You know, you just want to see that go to its conclusion. And it really grips you in that way. Difficulty-wise, it is based on what you choose at the start. If you choose normal, it is not going to be super difficult. And the difficulty scales based on how, you know, invested into what your task is. If you invest a lot into combat's just not going to be as difficult. If you invest a lot into stealth is not going to be as hard. That's just how it is as an RPG. If you want a challenge, I highly recommend starting on a hard. Hard, I felt, was more tuned to provide a challenge, whereas normal, yeah, I died a few times, but I'm a decent gamer, and it wasn't, you know, I'm not the best, and it wasn't that challenging. Was it fun? Now, that is the real question. Yeah, the game was super fun, and I right now just want to get back to playing it. honestly. Like, even taking the time to talk to you guys is distracting me from valuable Cyberpunk time. So I hope you appreciate it. No, I'm kidding. It's a really fun game. And ultimately, that's what matters. And the side missions, I didn't skip at all. I didn't want to skip dialogue. I didn't want to skip aspects of them. They're all pretty good. Some were better than the others, obviously. And then you have gigs. Gigs are what are given to you by fixers, and usually there'll be go meet this person or go eliminate this person or go do this, right? But there's always more to it than that. There's always like a backstory about who you're going to eliminate. You might find out that the person you're eliminating is a war veteran, and the reason they stole the meds that you're trying to steal back is because they need them to survive. There's little things like that that pull at your heartstrings. So there's definitely a lot to it. All right. How is the brain walking sequences? Oh, you mean brain dancing? They're there. They're not particularly, rich and engaging. It's like almost playing like a detective side mission. You're looking through footage. You're looking for like the little bits of information to make what is coming up easier. You'll see turrets, for example. You'll know that they're there next time you go to that location. So it's all prepping you for something that's going to happen. And I found them interesting, just not the best part of the game. All right. How much for the bike, the Arasaka? Oh, I don't know. Sorry, dude. I really don't know about the prices. Like, there was one bike in particular that was over 100,000 eddies, and there's some that are a lot cheaper. It just depends on what bike it is, and I just can't remember the exact prices. Is there transgender character customization? Yeah, there is. All right. Can you make V more muscular? No, you cannot. You can't change the body type beyond the initial choice of male or female. And I feel like a lot of that was due to fitting clothes onto the rig. If you know anything about 3D animation, you'll know that your body, if it changes sizes in 3D space, will need to change the models that is put therefore onto them, like the clothes that's put onto them. So I think just to make it easier for themselves, they just made like two body shapes. Can we have a massive slong? You can change the size. There's small, medium, and large. But I gotta be honest, guys. Large is not that large. Yeah. I mean, maybe, I'm not saying I've got a particularly large one, but it didn't seem that big. It seemed like mine, honestly. Like the large size. And it didn't seem that, like I thought in a game like Cyberpunk, in a universe where you can literally swap your dick out and swap your boobs out and stuff, that it would be extreme, right? Like large would be down to your knees, but it really isn't. They're just average sizes. Like you can choose between small, medium, and large. And the same goes for breasts. In fact, breasts are even less than the real world. Small is just flat, and large is just like a B cup. And the national average for us is like a C. So it's actually small. Like boobs are actually smaller than they are in real life, which is weird to me. And I mentioned that in the review. It just seems odd that in a world like Cyberpunk, where you can swap out your hair color, swap out your eyes, your arms, your face, your nose, your ears, your legs, your heart, your respiratory system, you can't. Everyone's walking around with pretty damn average sized dicks and tits. It's weird. All right. Can you pickpocket? No, you cannot. Do weapons break? And no, they do not. Is there a butt slider? No, there is not. What are the mini games? Well, there are a lot of mini games here and there. They're all tied to like side missions, if that makes sense. Like there's like a shooting range side mission. There's like driving side missions, racing, street races, that kind of stuff. And I didn't really find the street races too hard. I had a good car, and I also use this for the races, especially with the controller. Driving a car isn't too hard. With a keyboard, it's a lot more difficult because keyboard doesn't have it's either all or nothing with a keyboard. So with driving in particular, using a controller, I didn't find it too difficult. And the side missions, therefore, and the mini games weren't too hard. But there's a few side missions there. All right. Oh, side mini games. Sorry. I've had no sleep, guys. To give you a perspective of how much I had to work to get this review out, I've had the game for a little while, and I've probably had about 2 hours every night sleep. Getting this review out, I was 4 hours late because I was up all night. I wanted to play this game more than just 30 hours, like everyone else. I wanted to play this game more than 60 hours like everyone else. I wanted to actually play this game. And that's why I can answer so many of your questions, because I've played this game. And I feel like, and I don't want to point fingers, a lot of people who are speaking very negatively about it haven't really given it a chance. They had to get through it very quickly, had to review it very quickly. They gave it 30 hours minimum just to get through it. And they had a sour experience, and that's because of that. So, yeah. Does the gender you choose have any effect on how people interact with you? Yeah, it does. It changes the dialogue, man. It affects a lot of things. If you're a male voice character or a female voice character, I think either voice or body, I can't remember which one exactly affects it. It does. They'll treat you differently. You'll understand things differently based on your gender. So especially with particular romances, for example, speaking to Judy, because a lot of you are still asking that, if you do flirt with her, if you do point out that she's looking good in what she's wearing, she'll tell you to not go there, dude. She'll tell you that you're not her type. Those conversations flow differently than if you're a female. If you're a female, she flirts with you. If you're male, she doesn't. She treats you as a mate. She treats you as a friend, and you kind of don't mind that in a way. You might be disappointed if you really want to romance her, but you don't really mind it because she's just a cool mate to have. Just watch your choices. That's all I'm going to say, because it really affects how your friendship and your relationship with her pan out. How is crafting? That's a good question. Crafting is very robust in that everything that you get can be broken down into components. It's quite simple. You have common components, rare components, epic components, legendary components, and there between. With those components, you can craft almost anything. If you find a gun, some of the time you'll actually be able to craft it straight after you find it. So then you can upgrade its quality. You can improve the gun itself with components up to your level. So if you get something very early on, for example, if you get a iconic pistol from a particular Maelstrom gangster, you can upgrade that consistently up to your level, provided you have the experience and provided you have the perks within crafting. You can also craft legendary iconic quality weapons. You can also craft legendary grenades. You can also craft ammo. You can craft mods. You can craft certain cyberware. It's quite deep. It's quite robust if you invest into it. If you don't, quite simply, you won't be good at it. That's just how it is. And it's kind of like Skyrim in that you'll be crafting a lot of useless junk to get your skill up. It's just how it is. You'll be like, all right, I need to craft this pistol 100 times to max my skill out, That's something you can do. But it's a good system. It is. I didn't put a lot of time into it. I put a little bit into tech, but I'm mostly focused on the engineering because I wanted that grenade damage and I wanted tech weapon damage. But it was a good system. Are you sorry. Almost lost it. All right. Touch to Die. Are you defending it a little bit, or are you actually satisfied with the experience you had? I'm really satisfied with my experience. Like I mentioned in my review, it has its problems. The exact title of the review was Imperfect Perfection, because that's what it is. It's not, sunshine, rainbows, and sugar-coated candy floss. It's a game, it has its problems. And the main problems for me were that at the start, at least, it had a lot of bugs. It's just simple. It just has a lot of bugs. It's not smooth yet as it could be. That is one problem. There's other problems like the voice acting sometimes snaps me out of it. Uh, we see a lot of Laura Bailey, which I mentioned in the review, and you know, I counted at least three within a short space of characters that were voiced by her. And maybe it's just my ear and I pick up on it, but it kind of distracted me a little bit. And sometimes the pitch changes, you know, within the same conversation. It felt like maybe they didn't record it in the same session. There's little things like that. And then there's also things here and there like you don't know exactly how what you did has influenced the story. You don't know the choices you made in the conversations. You don't know how exactly that's influenced things until maybe later on or until another playthrough. When I play through the game again and I tried a different dialogue option and tried a different choice, then I'm like, oh, that played out differently. I got a different mission from that. You know, like that's how you know how your choices impacted you. But at the start, when you start playing it, you're not going to know. And sometimes it's going to feel like it's inconsequential. And that's what a lot of reviewers are like, oh, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it does matter. You know, your choices do matter, but you're just not going to notice what they did. There are a lot of endings. There are a lot. I don't know how many because I haven't gotten them all yet. Frankly, I haven't gotten them all yet. I've so far seen 4. And that is for 2 of them within the same playthrough and 2 of them within another. And that was just going back to a save and trying something different. So I do really enjoy the game, and I did really enjoy it, and I still really enjoy it. And I'm going to be playing this game for some time. Is it going to be something you play for a year? Absolutely not, unless DLC comes out. Is it going to be something you play for a month? Yeah, it will be, because you're going to take your time, you're going to digest everything the game has to offer, and you're going to really enjoy it. Can you become a cyborg? No, you can't. You're a mercenary through and through. You've got a limited amount of equipable cyberware slots. You don't ever get enough to become a cyber psycho. You just don't. You remain. Well, you do have a certain level of humanity that just remains. All right. Can you buy houses? No. I don't want to spoil things, but you have an apartment. You have an apartment. I rarely visit it, honestly. I rarely went back there. I used my stash a few times, but then I realized that you can use a stash within your car. Your car, if you go to the bonnet or the boot or whatever, wherever its storage is based on the car, you can store weapons and items and everything in there because you do have inventory space. Though, if you ever run out of space, I just ended up dismantling items for components and then crafting with it, you know. It's never too much of an issue, but you may or may not get access to other places to stay. All right. Are there scary underwater animals like sharks? No, there is not. In fact, you don't actually swim that much. We were led to believe that there was an underwater area. There is in a side mission, but you don't get to explore it that much. All right. Is there a limit to how many cybernetics you can equip? I just went through this. There is. Yes. So you have particular slots. You have, just trying to think how many, but it's over 10 slots. You have a slot for your eyes. You have your slot for your brain, your cyber deck, your respiratory system, your legs, your arms, your hands. You have slots for a lot of things. And at the end of the game, in my first playthrough, I hadn't slotted every piece of cyberware in yet. And that's mostly because I just didn't have the cash to buy everything. So you do have to make choices. You really do. You're not going to be just like swimming in cyberware without investing into your character having a lot of cyberware. But you got to keep in mind that within that cyberware, you can modify. So if you get gorilla arms, you can modify it with electric damage, for example. You know, like you can modify your eyes to have different things within it. You can highlight your grenade radius. You can just add critical damage. You can highlight your enemies when they detect you. There's a lot of different mods within that cyberware. All right. Can we improve armor clothing? Yes, you can. You can indeed. If If you find something particularly good that you like wearing, you can upgrade it along with you. You can also equip modifications into your items as well that can do stuff like improve your movement speed, your armor, your resistances, and depending on the rarity, other things as well. Is there a mercenary system like AC Odyssey? There is not. Nothing like it. Inventory size limit. I think that's based on a few factors. You can get cyberware that actually improves your inventory capacity, improves skeleton or something along those lines. It's fairly large. You can have about 10, 15 maybe weapons sitting in your inventory before you'll feel it. Grenades barely take up any inventory space. Consumables take up nothing. Craftable materials take up nothing. So you'll mostly be disassembling your gear, your items, and your clothes if you want to get more space, or selling them, because selling them is valuable as well because you need that cash. What separates this game from something like Fallen Order? Well, Fallen Order is a very linear narrative-based experience, whereas this is very open-ended. You can go like 50 hours without even touching a mainline mission. So it's very different in that regard. You kind of write your own story, whereas Fallen Order is like you are this character and you play this character and you watch his story. So it's very different in that regard. Same with Zelda Breath of the Wild. You are Zelda, you play his story. In Cyberpunk, you're not V is you. You are projecting yourself onto this character. You're that person. You're saying what you want to say, you're doing what you want to do, you're acting how you want to act. Yeah, you have to fit within certain parameters, but you more or less project, which you're not doing with those games. Size doesn't matter with your penis, no. It's just visual. Love your videos. Keep going. Thanks, man. All right. Yeah, I played Breath of the Wild. Definitely have. Can you get haircuts? I didn't run into a hairdresser. I think you can customize your looks, but I honestly never did it. And I'm sorry, I honestly never looked and never did it because I just never cared. I know that sucks, but sorry. What was your least favorite part of the game besides bugs? That's an interesting one. There wasn't anything that really stood out that I didn't like, that I didn't enjoy. There wasn't anything terrible about the game. I know that's really a cop-out answer, but you take a game like Assassin's Creed Valhalla that just came out and I just did a few videos on. There are certain things where you can be like, yeah, I just don't like this. Like, for example, the settlement aspect, I felt like they really rushed that. I felt that it wasn't as good as it could have been. With Cyberpunk, yeah, some things aren't perfect, but there isn't anything that stands out as wholly bad. Just like there isn't anything that stands out that is the best. There's a lot of good things in the game. There's a lot of, mediocre things, I guess, but nothing bad. All right. How many guns are there? There isn't a super huge amount of guns, I've got to be honest. I think I saw almost all of them, and there's a lot, but there isn't an amount where you'll lose track of their names, if that makes sense. So, for example, you'll have a particular brand of pistol. This pistol, no matter the rarity you find it at, will always be the same in terms of looks, besides, paint jobs and different, scratches and all that stuff. Like there's different skins basically, but it'll fire the same. It'll perform the same as if you have the exact same gun in, another rarity. But there will be differences like stat-wise, if that makes sense. So it might fire faster, or it might hit harder, or might provide an elemental effect. But overall, you know what you're getting when you use that gun. There's, in terms of those types, brands, and models, there isn't a whole lot. I can't put a monetary value on it, but not monetary. I can't put a numerical value on it. I think maybe like 50 guns around there, maybe less. But the difference comes in with the rarities, with what it rolls, what stats it has, how you upgrade it, what mods you put into them, and iconic guns. And you find iconic guns which look different, perform different, have different effects. Same with melee weapons. There isn't a whole lot of melee weapons. You know, you might find a dildo on a stick. You might find a hammer. You might find baseball bats. You might find knives, tantos, all those things. But then you'll find something iconic and it will look different. For example, an iconic bat might have studs on it, might be fully golden, might have little flares and stuff like that on it. You might find a thermal katana, for example, which will change based on the mods. So there's enough there that I didn't get bored with playing around with weapons. And considering that I went very specialist in terms of what weapons I used, for my first playthrough just used pistols mostly. I did switch in rifles and shotguns and light machine guns just to play around with them. But overall, I didn't get bored of the guns that I had access to. Once I got a particular gun, and I'm not going to spoil what it is, I'll make a video on it very soon because it's probably the best gun in the game. Arguably, there might be others. But once I got that, I was just content upgrading it and modding it and just keeping it along for the ride. But then when I wanted to sneak around, I would whip out another pistol with a silencer on it, because silencers would make it so the damage would be reduced overall in combat, but out of combat, your damage would be increased. So I'd just be picking off people at distances with a sniper pistol. And then I would have something else, like a melee weapon, just in case, but I would never really need it just in case, because I was good enough at dodging. I had the ability to slow down time when you dodge, and I had the ability to manually activate a slowdown, which was a lot less of a slowdown, but it was still very good. So yeah, to answer your question, there isn't a whole lot of variety, under 50, but there is a lot in terms of like the stats and what you can get and playing around with them and what you can do with them. All right. Ooh, I always have to pause this chat. Can you rob stores? No. You can shoot them. I don't think you can rob them. Actually, I don't think I've tried it. I've held a gun to them before, but nothing's happened, so I don't think you can. How does nudity work? Can you run around free roam nude? Yes, you can. And like I mentioned, if you look down, you'll see everything flopping around in the breeze. What is the best life path? I haven't played them all yet, so I can't tell you. You'll have to get back to me in many hours, in many, many hours. But so far, I don't think there's a best. I think there's a what you want to play like. Corpo is very corpo. You're going to have insight to how corporations work, and that's going to provide you insight in certain areas, and it comes up quite a lot. Street Kid is all about the streets. If you want to be that street rat, not giving into corpo life, then that's probably going to be more for you. Same with Nomad. If you want to be wild and free and have that kind of knowledge, then Nomad's probably going to be for you. It's very difficult to tell at this point without playing through all of them. Can you speak English, please? I can't understand you. Thanks, man. All right. I'm sorry. I haven't had much sleep and my lips are dry. Let me have a big sip while I read the questions. How long is the game with all side missions? I haven't done them all yet. I've done most of them, I think. But I'll still have to roam around and see if I haven't missed stuff. But, it's a 100-hour game. Maybe. I'm guessing. It's definitely not 175 like the QA director was claiming. I don't think it could ever be that long unless, you play very slowly and you have a very difficult time on very hard. The difficulty definitely adds time to it. and your playstyle adds time to it. I went guns blazing most of the time. So finishing, most of what I wanted to finish within 60 hours was doing it very quickly. All right. How tough is max attack? Very tough. You can kill them if you invest into killing them, but they will get you. They will eventually get you. You're not going to last forever because one or two shots from them, generally speaking, take you out. Unless you invest into health, and even then, I don't know how long you're going to last. I haven't made it a priority to test it, but they're pretty strong. And it doesn't come down to skill. It comes down to just stats, right? Like you can take them out as easy as they can take you out. So you can shoot them a couple times in the head and take them out, right? But they're going to one or two shot you as well. And there's a lot of them that come at you eventually. Is there humanity points? No, they got rid of that feature. They got rid of that. So I don't think it's going to change. I think they wanted it to function in a way wherein you weren't punished for cyberizing yourself. They wanted to make it so the main part of the game, which is, equipping all that cyberware, isn't going to punish you. So I don't think there is a reward for not equipping any cyberware because you have to equip the Kuroshi eyes, you have to equip the subdermal plate. So you're not going to go a completely human run. Can you smoke or do drugs? You can do drugs, yes. Yong said there's no walk toggle. Is that true? It depends on what you consider walking. Because if you walk around normally just by pressing, your WASD, you can't. That's just what you'll do. You need to hold shift to run. So there isn't a run toggle because running consumes stamina. Walking around normally is just holding the buttons. If you use a controller, you can vary your speed based on how hard you press down the joystick. But that's it. There's not really much to say, and you don't really notice it. Like if you want to run, you hold down the button to run. It's that simple. Is this spoiler free? Yes, it is. I'm not saying anything spoiler wise. Can you see the pussy? Yeah, you can, David. And there is a scene where you see it on someone else as well. Is there any fun minigames like Gwent? There isn't, unfortunately. There's minigames like shooting games. There's like racing games. There's a little things like that, but there is no Gwent style minigames. And I don't know how they would even work in this universe, to be honest. It looks 50-50 and you want to stream the game. Man, if people think this game is 50-50, they've got some serious problems. I think a lot of people who are crapping all over this game are people who are doing so for views and for attention and because it's what's called tall poppy syndrome. Look up tall poppy syndrome. It's basically where they want to see the mighty fall. This game was overhyped. It was hyped like crazy, right? So wanting to shit all over it now and prove that other people were wrong is definitely a drive for a lot of people. This game is at minimum, and minimum, guys, a 9 out of 10, all right? Minimum. This is a really good game, and anyone that says otherwise is just smoking some bad ganja. Seriously. They just want it not to be good. All right. Is there a new game plus? No. Is there fall damage? Yes. There is fall damage, and it doesn't really play a huge part, but I'm going to reveal something to you that's not a spoiler. There is a cyberware that lets you do a superhero landing, which essentially cuts all fall damage and makes it so when you land, you do like this explosion around you that kind of damages and kills enemies. So you can kind of use falling to your advantage, and there is a lot of verticality, even in mainline missions. So you can use that if you really want to, though. Jumping off things I never really did a whole lot of. You can get, certain mods that reduce it, certain perks that reduce it as well, but I wouldn't worry too much about it. Are there throwing weapons? Yeah, there are. You can get knives in the game. And when you've invested into a particular stealth perk, you can throw knives. And throwing knives are actually really effective in stealth. They don't make a sound. If you hit them on a weak point or you crit, you're going to one-shot most people. They're really powerful. And if you don't, you can apply poison effects because down that same stealth tree, there's poison damage. So I found it really fun, actually, like going a knife-based kind of sneaky build. Does military fighting feel good? Yeah, it does. Is the sex scenes fappable? I'm going to give you my Dantix official fappable rating out of 6 out of 10, I think. They're not really that good, I'm going to be honest. You don't see much. The women aren't that attractive. I honestly don't know why City Project Red thought all women need to look kind of old, all women need to look kind of unattractive or masculine. But the ones you do get to romance really aren't that great. So not very fappable. The scenes themselves have a bit of moaning in it, which is good. But like, and I never got the urge to. Just saying. All right, that's probably too much information for a lot of you. Can I be fat and chunky in customization? No, you cannot. Can you have a pet? No, you can't. Can you kill anyone besides kids? Yeah, mostly. You can't kill children and you can't kill particular NPCs. If you're in a quest moment, your guns and your weapons are disabled. If you come across someone that's of importance to the story, your guns and weapons are disabled. You can't kill everyone. It's not like Fallout or some of those other games where you can really kind of kill everyone and you can get away with it. You can't do that in this. If it's going to kill a mission, it won't really let you. And you can't kill children. And sometimes you really want to because some of them are little bastards that have snide comments when you walk past and have an odd amount of cyberware on some of them where it's like, dude, you're not going to grow into that. Your cyber arm's going to be like up to here on you when you get to full size. Hopefully they have a good Ripper doc. Did you find any male sex workers? Yes, there's a few of them. Saw a review that said there weren't many males. Maybe. I mean, there weren't many females either. Can you watch TV? Yeah, you can. Actually, I spent a bit of time watching TV and it's really good. There's a lot of shows. There's a lot of news stories. There's a lot of situations where, oh my God, next door's beating away. There's a lot of situations where something happens in the quest and you'll hear about it on TV. If I want to be famous, what role should I pick? Mate, I can't tell you, honestly. I can't talk to that. I'm not going to answer it, guys. I can't answer if you can destroy anything like Silhammer. I can't answer those questions because it's spoiler town. How's the details of nipples? Pretty good. You have a few options. Thoughts on Johnny Silverhand? I enjoyed him as a character. I think Keanu Reeves didn't give his best performance, I'd say. I'm just going to turn up this. Hold on a second so I can turn up this noise gate so I can get rid of all this banging that's going on next door because next door is a fucking jerk and has been working on his shit for months. All right. Noise gate. Can you guys still hear me? All right. There we go. I turned up the gate a little bit. All right. I haven't got a P.E.K.K.A gun. No. I don't know that exists. When you were in the end game, did you feel your gear was all legendaries or best? I felt there was room to improve. I was using a legendary gun. I was using an iconic legendary gun. I was using 2 pieces of legendary gear, but that was it. Can you glory kill like in Doom? Yes, in a way, sort of. It's not exactly like Doom, but you can do action-based kills based on your perks. You can default be pretty clean. You don't need to do drugs. You can avoid taking any stimulants at all, but there are moments where you need to take stuff. I can't be sure what kind of drugs those are, but you can take stuff. How's the replayability? You got to watch my review, Pat. I talk about this. The game begs to be replayed. The game is the game is something wherein you're going to want to see different outcomes. It's kind of like Mass Effect in that way, where you play a different way and you'll have a different experience. You're going to want to try it again. You're going to want to try new things, new builds, new outcomes, see what you did in that first one, how that had an impact. You're going to want to replay it. This game is 100% about replaying. Are there sexualized males? Yeah, there are. Saggy titties, snake eyes? No. Unfortunately, like I mentioned before, there's no variance in boobs. They're all small. They're all tiny. Is there any long hair? I think there is. Yeah, I think there is. Just more or less. I guess your definition of long, it might be different to mine, but I think it goes down to about there. Can you change your field of view? I believe you can. What was roaming the open world like? Says Wild Spot. It was fun actually, because there's a lot to see, there's a lot to do, there's a lot of things that turn up. Even at the end of the game, I still had events happening around me as I was walking through the world, stopping, robbers destroying a shop, or helping out with particular gigs that just keep appearing. There's always something to do and always something to see. You can always listen into conversations which happen all around the world. You can find tarot cards around, find little bits of information on shards that are everywhere. Uh, every little alley is different. Every little building is different. Everything is different, and it's really fun to explore. Free roam happens roughly about 6 to 8, I'd say, hours into it. So after the initial prologue, you're pretty much left to do whatever you want, and you can do that from almost, yeah. There's no restrictions as far as I know. You can go anywhere, almost anywhere. I mean, obviously, some levels of buildings are closed off. Or most levels of buildings are closed off to you. Some areas that you can enter are closed off because they're only open when you go through it in a story. But other than that, everything's kind of open. Dude, you kind of ignore my question. Sorry, dude. I don't even know where your question is. You have to keep in mind there's 3.7 thousand people commenting on this, so just be patient. Tesla's in the game. No? There's a car that kind of looks like a Tesla. Is it better than Red Dead Redemption 2? I didn't like Red Dead Redemption 2. So this is not a question for me. I've actually got a review up on my channel about why Red Dead Redemption 2 wasn't perfect. And check that out if you want to know more. But I didn't enjoy Red Dead. I felt like Red Dead Redemption 2 was jerking itself off a bit too much, honestly. Like, it took its time too often and paid disrespect to the player. It didn't respect our time, and it thought too much of itself. Whereas it's still a great game. I still rated it over a 9. It's just it wasn't a perfect game. Whereas with Cyberpunk, I just had fun the whole time. I didn't feel like anything dragged on. I didn't feel like I was wasting time. I didn't feel like I did with Red Dead Redemption 2. I didn't feel like I had to do stupid things. I didn't feel like things dragged on. It was just a good game. Yeah, people are complaining that the main line, if you rush through, you can get through it in 30 hours. Maybe less if you're a speedrunner, maybe less if you go, if you know exactly what you're doing. But that's a good thing, guys, because you're going to want to replay this. You're going to want to try all these side missions. You're going to want to do different things in it. It's a really good game. It doesn't drag on. Sorry, the slappy sound is the guy next door hammering away. Sorry about that. All right. Something happened with his floorboards, some rot or something, and he's been working on it for months now. All right. How's the soundtrack? Really good. Really good. Is it better than GTA 5? It's been a long time since I played GTA 5, so I can't tell you. I have a learning disability. For dialogue, do you think I have enough time to read the options before the timer runs out? No. If you've got heavy dyslexia, you might have trouble. There are a few situations where I had maybe 20, 30 seconds to pick a response. And even though I can read fairly quickly, there are a few times where I was sitting there scratching my head like, what should I do? What should I do? But it's kind of part of the game, Jeremy. You can choose to not respond. And that might be the way you choose to play the game. If you don't respond, that's a choice in itself. So I would recommend doing it that way. Just be stoic. You can't skate. Difficulty options, you've got story, normal, hard, and very hard. Very hard is quite difficult, so you can't start with it. You can only start with hard. Did they keep the hardcore mode in that disables HUD? I think you can disable the HUD in options. But keep in mind that I don't think you can. Because keep in mind that the HUD is actually your Kiroshi eye implants. That's how you see things. So you can avoid all the sex scenes, man. Did you see trans girls in the game? Yes. There was one in particular, and it kind of pissed me off, to be honest, because I really wanted her to be romanceable, and she didn't end up being. So, how was your frames per second? Really good. Were the motorcycles any good? They were excellent. They were really good. I actually preferred the motorcycles to a lot of cars until I got a really good car, and then that was just phenomenal. Do you like the character customization, or is it meh? Character customization, guys. Let me go through this and be as clear as I can. Physically, it doesn't really matter that much, honestly. You see it in your inventory screen, you see it in mirrors, you see it when you're a third person on bikes and in cars, and in some scenes, especially during the end. The ending, all of the endings cut the camera out and you see your character, and in some scenes as well. But overall, customization doesn't really mean much. It really doesn't. The only thing that is valuable is your body type and your voice. That is the most important things. And so that is what you need to make the choice on. The rest can kind of fall by the wayside. Your hands are important, so choose your nails really well. Other than that, that's about it. How many romanceable characters are there? And more specifically, is Lizzie Wizzy romanceable? I can't say how many there are because I've only played as a straight male. But it's not that many, dude. I'm sorry. I think I romanced 2 during my first playthrough. And I wouldn't even call the first one romance. It was kind of just like, all right, we're doing this. And the next one was very romantic. Like it was very much like you fall in love kind of thing. And it's very in depth. So I can't tell you, honestly, I'm not there yet. Is Lizzie Wizzy romanceable? I can't tell you as well because when I did meet her and when I did missions with her, the outcome wasn't what I wanted it to be. So maybe you can if things pan out differently, but with me, I didn't get to. I played on normal and then I played on hard and I tried very hard. Are the enemies bullet sponges? In normal, absolutely not. If you don't invest anything into weapons, maybe they could be, but no, really not. Even the bosses, I felt sometimes that I was killing them too fast, but they can one shot you. You know, some of the bosses. So it feels kind of like, oh god, I'm sorry about this. It feels kind of like it feels like yeah, you can do a lot of damage, but yeah, you take a lot as well. You can gamble. You can gamble on fights. You can put money down on fights and that you get personally involved in. I'm not sure if there's any more gambling. I can't tell you for sure. I don't think so. All right. Average gamer play on normal to start with, and then switch it to hard for your next one. Uh, hard is going to be more difficult. There might be, depending on how you play and how you invest, it's going to challenge you a little bit more. So it's not going to be easy to kill things if you don't invest in killing them. Can you listen to music in game? Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Can you keep playing after the ending? No, you can't. So once the game says, you pass a point of no return, that's it. So you need to do everything before that. I'm getting a lot of the same questions now, guys. So I might actually have to wrap this up fairly soon, especially since my neighbor's probably not going to give it quits. So can you get exotic mods? I think you mean iconic, and not that I know of. You can get legendary quality, but I don't think there's iconic ones. Maybe there is, I just haven't found them. Is the combat laggy or heavy? Depending on what you're wielding. Hammers feel heavy, but if you invest more into speed, more into damage, all that stuff, it doesn't feel as bad. But I wouldn't say bad, it doesn't feel as heavy because you get stronger. Is it laggy? Absolutely not, man. It feels very smooth. Very smooth. All right. Is the main story long enough without side missions? Yeah, it is. I mean, how much time do you guys have? Do you have, 60 hours to sit there and just play a game? If you play just the mainline mission and just get it to, I don't know, 20, 30 hours, that's a good game. If you've paid $99 and you get 20, 30 hours out of a game and you really enjoyed it, you've gotten your money's worth. Considering that a movie goes for 2 hours and you'll drop, 20, 30 bucks on that. So just think of it that way. Is the main story long enough without side missions? Absolutely is. It doesn't drag on. It feels really good and it gets to the point. Okay. But you shouldn't do it that way. You should absolutely play side missions. Absolutely. Do one run where you avoid them all. Tell me about the ending and then we'll talk. I want to be a stealth assassin. Is it feasible? Absolutely feasible. It's really good. It feels amazing. It'll take a little bit longer than, playing all guns blazing, but you'll get more rewards from it. Some missions require you or reward you for playing stealthily, so that's there. Is there any STIs or STDs in Cyberpunk? No, there isn't. There isn't. Medicines come a certain way where you can basically replace all your organs, so none of that exists. You can even replace, those parts. So, well, you can't physically do it, but people can in the universe, so that doesn't exist anymore. Is it as detailed as Red Dead Redemption 2? Graphically, probably not. But it has... Okay, so graphically is probably not as beautiful in some areas, but a lot more beautiful in others. And detail, there's a lot of detail in this game. Just walking around the city, looking at the guns, looking at the cars, there's a ton of detail. Was there sex in depth? No, not really. All right. Vehicle customization? No, that doesn't exist. That's something I would have liked to see, especially since you can buy guns, you can buy cars. Eventually, based on your street cred, you can get access to certain cars that you can go ahead and buy. Fixers will ring you up and be like, "Hey, I've got this car. Come buy it." You can go buy it. It'd be really cool if you could customize it, but sadly you can't. Maybe in DLC though. You can't free roam after the ending though. Not yet. Maybe in DLC. But you can go back to a save before you did the ending. Have you tried a tech-only playthrough? No, I haven't. Sorry. I've tried tech, but I haven't tech only. It's definitely viable though. You can just invest fully into tech and just invest fully into tech weapons and grenades and you'll be fine. And obviously modding. Is it cross-save through your GOG account? I'm not sure because we've only had access to PC, so I can't test it out. Can you enlarge the HUD so people with vision issues can actually read? You can increase the text size, yes. There's a lot of options to help those with vision impairments. A lot. Is Judy romanceable as an... Oh, God. Everyone's... I reckon that's been asked like 1,000 times. And I'm not exaggerating on that number at minimum. All right. How much cussing? There's a bit. There's a fair amount. But the thing is, they use different words in this timeline. They use things like delta. You know, they use different words. So it's not a whole lot, but there is a bit. Can you dual wield? You can't dual wield anything. You can't dual wield swords. You can't dual wield weapons. You just get what you get. When I ask if it's detailed, I mean small things, random interactions, stuff like that catches you off guard. Yes, dude. Whoa. Just little things. There's so many times where just little things just were crazy. I sat back and was like, whoa, the detail they put into that. So yes. I'm not sure about Hanako Arasaka. I don't think so, unfortunately. I really wanted her to be romanceable because she was one of the only females that looked even half decent. But no, I don't think so. And Misty, definitely not. You know, bros before hoes, as they say. You gotta put your bro first. You can't sweep Misty up from under his feet. All right, guys. I might actually end it there, and I'll do another stream sometime soon. But it's been really good, guys. It's been absolutely phenomenal. It's like I said in my review, it's a 9.5 game for me. It's a very good game. It has its problems, like every game does. Is it as good as everyone was hyping it up to be? No. But we knew that would be the case, didn't we? We just needed something to get us through COVID. And this is definitely a good end to the year. There's a lot right with this game, and I honestly think with some updates and some DLC, we'll be playing this game for a long time. When multiplayer comes, I'm not sure exactly how they're going to deal with that, but that's another aspect that will just put a huge spanner in this. The game is good. The game is going to last. You're going to get a good amount of enjoyment out of it. So just pick it up, play it. If any of it looks appealing to you, if you like RPGs at all, just play the game. Don't worry about these reviews. Just play it for yourself. You're going to enjoy it. Oh God, just don't even listen to the internet right now. Just watch my channel. That's all I can ask. Subscribe to my channel. Watch my channel. I won't spoil things. I'll give you what you need. Just go in and play it, and then tell me what you think. Because I honestly think once you play it, you're gonna be like, "What were all these people on about?" Yeah, there's some bugs, but still, like, so what? Like, it's gonna be like that for you. You're gonna be sitting there like, really? They gave it a 6 out of 10. They gave this game a 6 out of 10. What's wrong with you? All right. Thanks, guys. I will try to answer as many questions as I can in the comments of this video, so I'll leave it up. But thank you so much for watching. I love you all. Honestly, thank you so much for the support. And I am just going to absolutely smash this content as much as I can. So pay attention. Keep your eyes peeled.